I'd been in business for about a year, I decided that I wanted to launch a product. I read all of these stories online about people who were having 5, 6, even 7-figure launches, and it sounded pretty cool, and it also sounded like there wasn't that much to it. It seemed like they just put together a great product, and then they advertised it on social media, they advertised it to their email list, and then people bought it in droves. And that sounded really neat. It sounded like a great way to make some extra money in my business. At that time, I was working really hard for every single sale that I made, every single new customer that I got, and I thought that it sounded wonderful to have this big injection of cash into my business. So accordingly, I built a course. It was fairly extensive. It took me several weeks to complete, and it is a really good course, and I actually still sell it now today because it was a great course that I put together. But I then tried to launch it, and I also put a lot of time into that launch. You can probably guess where this story is going. I sold exactly 0 of that course. I thought, midway through the launch, I thought that I had sold one. I think it was on the second day of my week-long open cart. I thought I had sold 1 copy of the course, and I was very excited. And then I discovered that the person had only registered for the course but hadn't actually bought it. So they just like signed up to buy it. They'd entered in a username and a password, but then they hadn't actually proceeded to buy it. So I was very disappointed. So we get to the end of the week, and I had sold absolutely 0 copies of my course, and I was frustrated but also confused. I wasn't hugely let down because I had no idea what was going to happen. I thought maybe I would sell lots of them, maybe I would sell none of them. It was an experiment, but I was frustrated because I didn't know what I had done wrong, and I didn't know what I could do differently in the future. It wasn't like, oh, I sold 10 copies of my course, what could I do a little bit better to sell 11 copies? It was a complete failure. And so I then spent the next about 1 year trying to figure out exactly what I did wrong and what I could do differently so that I could actually successfully launch a product in the future. And it took me about a whole year to figure that out. But what I finally realized, and what allowed me to then have a successful launch of my next product, is that there was a couple key components that are just absolutely essential for having a successful launch, and I had basically missed all of them. So obviously, I mean, there's some things that everyone knows about launching. You have to have a product, or at least have a plan for a product. You might be selling your product live, like a live training program or something like that, and that's fine, but you do have to have some sort of product, and you have to have people to buy it. Now that is a given, and I did think of those 2 things initially, but I didn't think about how I was going to exactly connect those things, or how I was going to get people to actually know about my course and buy it. So there are 4 key things that made the difference between my $0 launch and my later 5-figure launch. The first thing was the ability to advertise my course to people who might be interested, and do that effectively and also affordably. Because you might be able to target exactly the right person, but if it costs you $1,000 to reach that one person, obviously that is a no-go as far as advertising goes. If you can reach them for a penny, that would be awesome, right? But you need to be able to advertise in some sort of effective way that allows you to more than break even so that you can make a profit. So maybe you're selling your product for $100, so you need to be able to advertise in a way that acquires customer somewhere less than $100. Maybe it's $50 to acquire a customer, $75 to acquire a customer. And obviously your leads are going to be even cheaper than that. But so you need access to some sort of affordable, effective advertising. Now the second thing that is essential for a successful launch is the ability to actually attract those people who you advertise to and make them interested in your product. So you could plaster signs for your course or your program or your service on every billboard in your city, but if your billboard is ugly, or you're reaching the wrong people, or it doesn't tell them what your course is actually about, then obviously it doesn't matter how cheap that advertising is, you're not really enticing the people to buy your course. Now the third very important part is that you have to be able to convert your interested people into actual buyers. So somehow you have to bridge that gap between they are interested in buying your product and they actually buy your product. So you have to somehow convince them to buy, and you have to make the sales process as simple as possible so that they don't get frustrated along the way and give up. And then the fourth thing is the ability to maximize the average cart value. So basically what that means is that whenever someone is buying your product, they might buy some small amount, like they might buy one bottle of something, or they might buy your smallest package or your simple course. Or they might buy more. They might buy 2 bottles of your product, or they might buy your most premier package, or they might buy your course plus some bonuses. So if you are only getting that barest minimum of the cart value, so like if your course sells for $100, if you're only getting $100 for each successful course sale, then you have to keep your advertising costs really low. But if you have a bonus where someone can also get some additional coaching sessions with you, or an additional workbook or something like that, that can make some people spend more money, then the average amount of money that people spend will be a little bit higher, and you are able to spend more money on your advertising, which means you're able to reach more people. So those are the 4 components of a successful launch, and let me just run down how I managed to achieve each of them so that I was able to have a successful launch after several failed launch attempts that resulted in 0 profits. So with my failed launches, my methods of advertising were basically free social media to try to attract people to my website. So I was just basically spamming Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I was trying to be helpful also to make people want to come join me, but I mean, essentially what I was doing was I was trying to use it as a free advertising platform to drive people back to my website. So that was what was not working. What did end up working was actually paying for real advertising, like a real business. So I started running Facebook ads that were driving people back to my website to be interested in my content, which leads us into step 2. They became interested in my blog posts, which I was specifically writing to interest people in the topics of my course and to kind of subtly sell the ideas that were in my course. So rather than just pitching my course cold to an audience who had never even thought of the ideas that were in the course and thought, oh, I need those ideas, instead I started with some blog posts that explained why this was such a great thing, why they needed this topic in their life, why they needed to learn more about it, what it could do for their life. And you might think that this would be a sort of blog post that no one would want to read, but I mean, think of all the articles that you've read about why skincare is so important, or why an email list is important. People read articles like that all the time, so I was writing compelling articles of that nature explaining why the topic of my course was an important thing that they needed for their business. And then once they came to my blog and they read those articles, then I was getting them to sign up for my newsletter. And I was then able to use my newsletter to effectively convert them into buyers. And then for the 4th and final step of these 4 essential components, I was able to raise my average cart value by making multiple different packages for my course. So instead of just having that basic level for my course, I added on 2 additional levels, one which had a group coaching option and also a couple bonuses, and one that had a one-on-one coaching option where I actually was working with each individual student in my course and I was helping them to achieve the results that they wanted to. So that kind of shows you the difference between my failed launch attempts and my successful launch attempts. When I was failing so much, it was because I wasn't really advertising effectively at all. I was unwilling to invest in my business and spend the money that I needed to get the word out there about my course. So effectively no one had even heard about it. Second of all, I was basically pitching my course cold because I wasn't doing any of this educational content that my audience was reading and consuming so that they knew why they needed my course. I just suddenly was like, here's 10 reasons why you need my course in an email, and it was too much too soon when I hadn't warmed them up properly. And so that also ties into the 3rd problem that I was having, which is I wasn't able to convert them into buyers, and that's just because I hadn't warmed them up at all. And then finally, my average cart value would have been really low. I mean, it was 0 because I didn't have anyone buy, but even if someone had bought, it would have been very low because I only had the one simple package and I didn't have any upsells. So I hope that that shows you the difference between what I did right that resulted in a 5-figure launch versus what I did wrong that resulted in absolutely 0 sales. Have you ever tried to launch a course or a different product? Launches are such an amazing strategy for selling more of anything. All those stories of 5 and 6 and 7-figure launches, I don't know if they're all true, you know, I don't know all the people who tell these stories, and I think that some of them definitely are true and others probably are not. But really what it comes down to is that having a sale does make people more inclined to buy. You know, if Nordstrom's Nordstrom's is having a sale, then you're more likely to go to Nordstrom's and buy stuff that maybe you did or maybe you didn't need. And a launch is effectively just that. It's a special sale and it gives you something to promote, it's an event, it's exciting, and it gives people a motivation to buy because there's a limited window of opportunity. They think, oh, this is the only time I can get that course all year, or this is the only time I can get this service for 40% off, or whatever it might be. You're giving people a reason to take action now, which is really essential for making more sales. If you have a service-based online business or you're a course creator, then I would love it if you left me a comment down below to tell me a little bit about what you are selling or what you would like to sell, and if you've ever thought about using a launch to sell more of it. Also, if you found this helpful or interesting, then please give it a thumbs up to let me know that you liked it, and also to help more people find it in the future. And I'd love it if you subscribe to my channel so that you can be with me for my future videos. I publish 2 videos every single week on topics of my entrepreneurial lifestyle and marketing strategy. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. This October, join me and a motivated group of 1,000 entrepreneurs for the much-anticipated Ready, Set, Launch Challenge. This is a free 4-day challenge that will help you plan out your most successful, most profitable launch ever. To sign up for the challenge, just visit gillianperkins.com/readysetlaunch. As you can see here in the bar, you'll be taken to this page where you'll see exactly how many days, hours, and minutes are left before the challenge kicks off, and then you'll click Take the Challenge and enter in your information. It's completely free and it will guide you through the process. During the challenge, you will get exclusive free access to some of my video trainings that are normally reserved for paying customers. You'll also get daily PDF assignments and access to the challenge Facebook group where you'll be able to post your answers to the daily challenge questions for your chance to win some awesome prizes. I hope you take the plunge and join us for this year's challenge.